Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to utilizing the new college retention dashboard. Today, we're going to talk to you a little bit about why we chose to create storytelling dashboards in new college. We'll go over the dashboard evolution and provide a demo, and we will also discuss how we apply the dashboard within new college. We'll hopefully have some time for Q&A and provide some contact information for you as well. I'm Jenna Graham, Management Research Analyst in New College.
Hello, everyone. I'm David, and I am the Assistant Director of Student Services and end user with dashboards and work with specifically our recruitment and retention teams.
So what we want to do really quickly is find out who you are. So we have a poll, and we want to find out who's in the room. Well, awesome. It's good to see a great mix. And David and I work with all of these people. We work with administrators, retention staff, other staff, and so hopefully we'll be able to provide perspective for all of these different people in the room, and we look forward to presenting and answering your questions later on. Okay, so ultimately, why storytelling dashboards and why do we need them? Over the years, ASU has done a wonderful job of providing more access to student data, be it through delivery, through resources like ASU Analytics, Data Warehouse. But with all of that information, you can really get lost. You can go down so many rabbit holes because data is very fascinating to most of us here in the room. We like data, we love data, and the more we have, the more we want to go through that. But when you have goals to meet within a university, and with so much out there, we really do need something that can help pinpoint certain key points that we need to find in the data. And at the time when we started making the new college retention dashboard, it predated some of these resources out there. In fact, our dashboard predated the ASU Analytics. And there was at least the analytics portal where so many of our visual dashboards are now. But like I said, there was so much rich information out there, which was very useful for those of us that utilize data on a day-to-day basis to support our students. But often the feedback that I received, especially as a data support person, is this is really great, but what do we do with all of this? Where do we focus, or what do we do with all of this information? So hopefully today we're able to show you how the data story dashboards have really helped us to really meet some of those goals that have been set. So one of those largest and most lofty goals is the 90% retention rate that has been set by President Crow for full-time first-year students. And ultimately, in order to achieve a goal like this, it really does take a village. You see that village down there below, but ultimately, in order to achieve something like this, it really is a team approach and a village approach. And ultimately, that team needs data to do that well. And we can go ahead and head to the next slide, David. This is the village in New College. These are the teams of people that work together to support student success and student retention. And so we have our student success team, which is partially led by David. It includes our peer mentors, and they do a lot of events and outreach. We have our academic advising team, which I'm not sure how many, do you know how many advisors there are, David, on the team?
We have about 10 advisors right now across our 3 schools.
And we also have our faculty, which are spread across 3 schools, led by our academic directors, as well as our college administration, our dean, he has associate deans, and then our executive director. So there's one common goal, which is ultimately student success, retaining students. But as you can see, this is a large group of people. And so the challenge is, how do you how do you focus all these people on a common goal? And with so many people and so much data, how do you really rein it in so that we can still focus on those goals that have been set by university administration? Some of this has to do with thinking outside of the box and and thinking in ways and acting in ways we haven't before. And so what I'd like to do here is talk to you a little bit about our unique experiences in New College. I've been in New College for 19 years, and I spent about 15 of those years working directly with students in recruitment or in retention roles. I worked with faculty and staff and just did a lot of collaborating. I also have the unique opportunity and pleasure to have been on the campus when we first started admitting first year students. So I was a part of the team that was charged with building the foundation, what is now the foundation of the retention experience for New College. And I bring those experiences with me to my data analytics role. About 5 years ago, I started making that transition from supporting students' retention and moving more into a data support role. About 3 years ago, I formally peeled away all of those other roles and specifically became an analyst for New College. And much of that was through the support of our new dean at the time, who loved data. And he was instrumental in connecting me with data resources within the university. Tableau was being introduced to the university, and my dean was very instrumental in making sure that I had access to those tools so that we could take our data exploration to the next level. And it's not uncommon for me to leave my dean's office. We meet regularly. We meet once a month. And often I will leave his office with a visualization that he has doodled on his whiteboard or that we scribbled out on the agenda that we're using during the meeting. So just a lot of great innovation happening in there. And I don't know that it is very common for an analyst, someone without the typical analytic background like mine, but also to have the analyst and the school administrator meeting one-on-one to discuss new ways to visualize data. And David also has a unique role that that he would like to share with you.
So I've been with ASU for a little over 8 years now. Part of that time working on the education outreach and student services side and student engagement, really focusing on creating campus experiences. And then about 3 years ago, transitioned to academic affairs, working with recruitment and retention. About that shift in 3 years ago, as Jenna was shifting over to working solely as an analyst in data, we also started to see a lot of growth in the college. So that really presented a really great opportunity for us to take a step back and say, what are we doing great? What needs some improvement? And how can we use all of this information to create models that allow us to really grow with the college in real time? So the data that's being brought into it over the past few years has been instrumental in us allowing to keep up with our growth and what workloads we're able to complete within the same 360 days we have each year.
And I don't know if David mentioned, but David he wasn't part of that first group of first year students, but he started here as a first year student and really has lived and breathed that whole retention experience that he's providing for other students now. Okay, so back to our village and getting all of these people on one page so that we really can focus and meet those goals. First, our executive director created a college-wide retention team that encompasses all of these groups. With the addition, she's also included me in those meetings firstly, because of my retention background. There was a big transition in the retention staff within within our college. Some people left. I moved into a different role, and it helped to have that continuation. But also, as a data analyst, I could provide support, data support in those meetings. It's wonderful to be able to sit there as the data analyst and hear the needs, also to provide support. But also, as I'm hearing, I could be a fly on the wall ultimately and listen to the needs of the team, and I can in my head making notes about, okay, this is something I want to incorporate in the dashboard, or this is something that could be useful in the dashboard. So bringing those teams together in one committee and also including the analysts was just brilliant on her part to really bring us together and have me a part of those so that I can really help to strategize with the team and provide immediate um, analysis.
We had a retention meeting yesterday actually, and it was amazing because in real time, as we were talking about our different academic levels and where we were at with retention, Jenna was sharing her screen and actually updating us with real-time data that we were able to look at and make real-time decisions of actions we were going to be taking between now and the end of the semester to best support our students with retaining them into the spring semester.
So I'd like to take you back to the inspiration for our retention dashboard, which began a few years before the dashboard was actually built, before we had access to Tableau and all of those wonderful tools that we have now. So what you see here is on the left-hand side is actually an attempt. This was something that was created at the request of my dean. This was our dashboard at the time that was created in Microsoft Word, Excel, essentially pulled the data from the data warehouse, exported to Excel, and used Word and PowerPoint to provide this dashboard. And what we're essentially seeing here, what the dean wanted the academic directors to have is essentially understand their trends, understand their year-over-year growth for enrollment, um, see what the breakdown was by academic level. Over to the right, this was something that I created for the retention team so that they could have at their fingertips trends, but also demographic information about the students that they were serving, as well as information about our top leaders for our freshmen and transfers. Ultimately, trying to provide access and information so the people could understand the students and the populations that they were serving at the time. They're great because we could print them out on a page. People could have these in meetings, but again, there's no interactive capabilities. So these were created in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So on the right-hand side is our cheat sheet. It's our data cheat sheet. This was created at the request of our assistant dean. And she ultimately just needed something, a quick sheet of paper, facts that she could have at a meeting. Often found herself in executive leadership meetings needing to have this information at her fingertips. And she wanted me to try to create it as a small business card. It wouldn't work. Try to do a half sheet, wouldn't work. Ultimately, we ended up with 8.5 by 11. A lot of busy information, but it's information she needed. And we did the best that we could with the tools that we had. But some of the challenges to these pieces are they're time consuming to have to cut and paste and literally, building the pivot tables and then cutting and pasting in different areas, time consuming. It was hard to update and figure out what pieces need to update where. Um, the data is not explorable. You can't really drill down and get additional information. It's pretty static. And there's not a lot of visual appeal to put into presentations. And I make that point because it's not uncommon for the new college dean or other administrators to incorporate pieces of the dashboards into presentations. In fact, that's partially how the dean was able to share our dashboard with the provost. For those of you that may have attended the executive retention dashboard presentation yesterday, the new college dashboard that you'll see today served as an inspiration for that dashboard. And the dean often presents the dashboard and pieces of it to university administrators or his faculty. David utilizes that, and he'll talk about some of the ways that he utilizes the dashboard. But these previous examples don't really lend themselves to be able to present, at least not in a pretty way. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so we have a lot of information. Things are busy, and you can see the previous examples, but people need information to do their job, and we try to find the best way to put a lot of comprehensive, or dare I say, interdisciplinary type information in one place. And here's what we discovered. So, like I said, it was time consuming before, but we fast forward to 2018, and I met Tableau, and Tableau did a lot of wonderful things for me because, like I said, I had 15 years of experience outside of analytics. I may have pulled data, but I did not have true analytics, an analytic background, a technical background. And so what Tableau allowed me to do is focus a lot less on some of that other busy work and really get into the data visualization portion because it doesn't require you to have so much of a technical background. So this is what we ultimately came up with. This is the third iteration of the dashboard. We have fall 18, fall 19, and now fall 20. And this is the fall to fall retention dashboard. We do have a spring dashboard that is operational now, but we're going to demonstrate the fall to fall dashboard as some of portions of the spring dashboard are still under development. This is just a picture. I will get into the actual dashboard so that you can see, but ultimately what I want to show you here is this is essentially a lot of the pieces that you saw in those other examples all on one page. And so we've got some call to action up in the front so that you can see what our current retention is, how many students are re-enrolled, how many students are not re-enrolled. And as you hover, and you'll see in the dashboard in just a few minutes, there'll be tooltips that basically pop up as you hover over to give you information, information about who's in our cohort, and then also our goal to hit 90% retention. And for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide because I'll go over all of this in the actual demonstration. So what I'd like to point out here is typically what happens is you've got a dashboard, and as people utilize the dashboard, we figure out that, hey, we need more. We need more information, or we need to drill down in a different way. And so one dashboard typically begets another one. And what you see here is our not re-enrolled dashboard, which focuses on just those 40 students that are not re-enrolled. And we can incorporate qualitative responses that we get from the retention team. So the wonderful notes that they take, we can find out a little bit more information about those students that didn't return. We also, as we scroll down the lower right, left-hand corner, sorry, David, you can see not re-enrolled by state. So we can focus a little bit more on just those states that our students are returning from. In the middle section, we can look at our students to see their whether they have past due amounts and look at their calculated index, CI band, or retention by gender. So again, with this one, just focusing on only the students that didn't re-enroll versus all of our first year students and the other dashboard. And once again, a dashboard, if we can go ahead to the next screen, David. Another iteration of our dashboard that literally is just a couple of weeks old. This is the data swirl. And for those of you who are familiar with the swirl from the college, they presented the data swirl at ASU's first data conference. And I just fell in love with what they were doing and immediately brought it back to the college and tried to reproduce one for ourselves. And a couple of weeks ago, David asked me for an updated version of the swirl. So here it is. And I thought, you know what? This is something that should probably be in our dashboard. This should be something that they can see updated just as often as the dashboard is updated. And so now the data swirl is there. And for those of you that aren't familiar, the swirl is ultimately showing us how our students are swirling out staying in, or swirling into other colleges. And so on the left-hand column, it will list all of our FGYF majors, or their 21st day majors. And then as you move across to the screen to the right, and at the top, it's showing you the majors they return to, which is very helpful for those of us that are for not only recruitment, but also retention, to see, okay, where are our students going? The ones that are leaving us, what majors are they selecting? So we've added that element to our dashboard. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now so that I can do some of the demo for you. And I don't think we mentioned this in the beginning, but we will be taking questions at the end. If you have questions, if you can hold them to the end, that's great. And if not, you can put them in the chat window, and we will go over those. So this is our live dashboard. And I'd like to point out, though, really quick, you see that there are different tabs. And like I said, we do have some wonderful resources within the university, and institutional analysis has some wonderful dashboards, retention by college and also retention demographics. And I'd like to include that in our dashboard so that I won't click on them just for the sake of time, and analytics seems very slow right now, and I'm afraid if I click the tab, it'll just spin forever. But these link directly to institutional analysis. Not as much visualization on those dashboards, but still provide very useful information and quick information for those when they need it. And so I wanted to make sure that that was included there. Also, we have, of course, our main dashboard. And the spring dashboard, there's a new tab for the data swirl. So that's in there, as well as the new executive dashboard that many of you may have seen yesterday. So I want to make sure that anybody utilizing the retention dashboard has access to the university resources, as well as the in-house resources that we have. So we have our main dashboard, but I also have a breakdown. Here you see retention by state. But if someone wanted to see that in a larger scale, that's what this tab is here. Not re-enrolled by state, which we saw on the not re-enrolled dashboard. There's a larger version of that, and it's filterable. Retention by high school, which we can see here. Let's see if I can. Let's see if I was going to do the pointer. Get an error message. Please don't break on me. Okay. So, well, you might as well see what happens. Sometimes we have to sign into Tableau, and now I think it times out after an hour, though I don't think this has been on the screen for that long waiting, but this is life, and it happens. But ultimately, those tabs provide access to a larger scale version of some of the visualizations that are within the dashboard. Okay, so we're back. And so, like I said earlier, if you hover over the tooltip, will show you information. So that 90% is our retention rate. How many are re-enrolled? How many not re-enrolled? The cohort total, and ultimately, how many more students needed to reach our specific goal. And in this case, we're trying to reach 90 since it was fall to fall. And we did 4 students over that, which is awesome. We also have a comparison of retention between the different colleges to see where do we fall in on the list. And as you hover over, there's additional information in the tooltip. And this is also conditionally formatted, which you'll see quite a bit, the coloring going from gold, red, all the way to green, or red all the way to green, with gold being sort of in the middle. This is at the request of our dean, who does like to see conditional formatting, and it's very helpful to really see those hotspots in the data. As we scroll down the dashboard, we can see retention to ASU by major. And again, as we hover over, we get more information about those majors. As we continue down the dashboard, we have retention to the major, not necessarily the ASU, but this is more about, did the student leave New College? And so we can look at whether the student re-enrolled or not, what their enrollment status is, and did they change or did they not? And as you hover over, we'll get some information about that. So we can see, okay, 59 or 75% of our forensic science majors did not change. Very helpful for those of us in recruitment and retention to look and see where are those, what's happening with our majors, not just retention at ASU, but what's happening inside of the major, which majors are maybe bleeding. In the midsection of the dashboard, we have our year-over-year trends so that we can see how we're doing over the years. What you may notice is that the line gets thicker with the cohort size. And as we can see, like David said, a lot of growth has been happening. So this line is getting much thicker as you get closer to 2020. And we can also see that dark green for retention. Great, our cohort is growing, but so is our retention of those students. We also have retention by our 3 schools so that we can kind of see how our 3 schools are faring, and retention by state. And what we have here is, as you hover over, each of these bubbles represents a student. And we can see information about how this, whether the student returned. Let's see if we can find one that may have changed. So for example, this student started off as an environmental science student. The student is now currently an exploratory student. So, you know, perhaps that major didn't work. It looks like the student did not re-enroll. We can see the student's high school information, which is helpful not only for, again, for retention, but also recruitment, which are quite, they're linked. And so it's great information, especially at that drill down level for especially people like David, whose team works directly with the students and can do immediate outreach. Though most of this dashboard focuses on first year students, we do have a portion of the dashboard that focuses on our continuing students. And that's what you can see right here, our 3rd semester FTFYES all the way through seniors. And these will be our seniors that are not ready to graduate. As we scroll over to the right, we can see retention by high school. Maybe we want to see, are there certain high schools where we're having more issues at? And so we have that here. And this here is sorted by our top 10. But again, they can look at retention by high school if they want to get the full list and do some additional filtering. We have retention by our financial needs. So we can look at need level and see how we're doing there, as well as retention by campus so that we can see how our campus is faring with the other campuses. And we're focusing on the metropolitan or the ground campuses here, or immersion campus. Keep changing the description. Here we have a visualization of, and I love this here, the way it's conditionally formatted. This is retention by CI band, the calculated index, which is assigned to first year students. And what we had experienced just by looking at data over the years is that we've been noticing that students with a 103 or below is really where we were having a challenge with our retention. And with it conditionally formatted this way, you can clearly see the line. It just helped to confirm what we were already reading out of the data, but solidifying here that there really is we are really seeing challenges in retention between that 103 and below and the 108 and above. And then we have retention by ethnicity. And what we've noticed here is that we had our lowest being our African-American population at 81%, which helped us prompt to put a filter here at the top so that we could filter the dashboard as much as possible by ethnicity to sort of see, you know, how does it look across the board for different populations. I do want to show you out of the spring dashboard. Are you guys seeing the swirl? Are you looking at the swirl now, David?
Yes.
Okay, great. So now this is an example of the swirl. And okay, gonna think. I'm sure most of you that have any experience with these dashboards and analytics know this happens. I don't know if it's going to make me sign into ABOR, but if it does, it's all good. It's thinking. And what is this one? So while that one's thinking, I'm going to show you our dashboards for the schools. So just like we have the general dashboard for New College in general, I also create dashboards for the individual schools that are specific to their majors. And so as we're looking at here at the mathematical natural sciences, instead of retention by college, they're looking at their majors. And they can kind of see, again, with the conditional formatting, how things are happening as far as retention to their major. They can also take a deeper look at retention to major. Did this student leave their school? Yes or no? And they can just look at those students. And there's information again as you hover over. And okay, this one wants to be funny. So we'll go back to the fall to spring, which is where I wanted to look at the swirl. Looks like it just went. So here we are back at the swirl. Again, so we can see, okay, our applied computing major looks like 17 or 95% came back to that major. We had one go to political science within New College, and then I think that's it for that one. We can see students that have gone to other colleges. So we had a biotechnology and enterprise student that has now moved to technological and entrepreneurship and management. So very helpful, again, to kind of see and also provide some metrics of our starting majors and where they ended up. We also have a swirl that shows students that swirled into the college, not necessarily retention because they didn't belong to us on 21st day. So it's not necessarily retention as far as retention to ASU, but perhaps retention to our major, right? And so you can look at the students you brought in from other places, which is useful to see. Let's see if we can get back to the dashboard here. For the school, again, they can look deeper into these majors. You know, what percentage of our students came back, which did or didn't change major. Their call to action items are here. And again, just like the other dashboard, we can see their trends, just visualized a little bit differently. We can see retention to state, but again, just by this school only their majors. We could look at just their continuing students. And again, everything is unique to just their school. All right. I'm going to pass this back to David. You can still the screen now, David. Okay, so just a quick notes about the dashboard. This dashboard is updated 3 times a week at the request of the retention team. The data source that I'm using is the ASU cohort with current enrollment and program status. I run this in Hyperion Studio. And for the retention trends, I'm using the retention tracking report, and I also run that in Studio. And currently what I do is I export to Excel and do all of my calculations in Tableau. So ultimately, is this your slide, David? Am I getting into your part now?
Yeah, so I can take over from here. So
my colleague, David.
So I definitely do not know how to build a dashboard in Tableau or have access to it. So I definitely rely on Jenna to do that. And it, as she talked at the beginning of our presentation, it really is a team effort. There really hasn't been any idea that I haven't been able to bring to Jenna, and she hasn't been able to go into Hyperion or analytics or the vast array of data points in the ASU realm and be able to come back and say, here's what you were looking for. And that really helps us influence where we take our individual data points that we're looking for and really use it to tell the story of a student. So I want to focus in on a couple of those. One of the things that Jenna highlighted was the major breakdown. This is a really big support area for us in looking at Where can we get the biggest bang for our buck with retention? This is based off of about a week ago with our current major breakdown. So seeing that 16% of our first year forensic science students aren't enrolled really allowed me to look at the visual dashboard and say, okay, 16% of our students, that actually happens to be 16 students. Let me check in with our advising team. Are they backed up 2 weeks with advising appointments? Are there any special events coming up where we can focus in on forensic science outreach? Do I need to do some outreach to our forensic science faculty and see what's the vibe currently happening with students within their classes and see what type of additional support we can? This allows us to go from a very macro level to micro and see specifically within those 16 students where best can we support them in our outreach. It also tells us additional data stories of our individual majors and where we're seeing successes in really quick enrollment and lackluster enrollment from October 19th when enrollment started for our first year students all the way till now with all of our academic levels being open. High school breakdown gives us a lot more specifics, not only for retention, but also recruitment. And again, it tells us stories. I can see here some of our top high schools, and year over year, this definitely changes, but it allows us to see year over year what some of our continually high recruitment high schools are. If we see a jump in particular high schools, it allows me to then go do some additional research on what's the student stories coming from those high schools. A couple years ago, we had a very high recruitment pool from a particular high school. And as I was doing research, I was able to see that particular incoming freshman class, when those students were in high school, their sophomore year, they had a murder-suicide on campus. And that helped us influence, is there petitional support services that we're going to have to be working with our students because they're coming in with a particular trauma that they experienced while on campus? Or how are these students becoming resilient from dealing with that their sophomore year, 3 years later now being in college? I am happy to report that we retained 100% of that particular high school that year. Because we don't have the data for our foreign high schools, that's really easy for me to tell that any of our our students who attend a foreign high school, 100% enrolled, especially right now with a global pandemic. If they attended a foreign high school, potentially an international student, how are we best supporting them in their recruitment or in their retention needs and making sure that they're not only retaining, but being set up for success with potential closures to their country and travel right now. And then a cohort support across the university. This has been a instrumental part of the visual dashboard for us as we look to re-enroll our students who are in new college. And we often have students who switch their majors. That can help us identify what students are not enrolled that are currently in a different college, especially our freshmen, knowing they started out with us at orientation, went through us with that process. They might not know how to access their advising resources, where their office is located, especially if it's on a different campus and they're currently still living on our campus. So this has allowed us to do some really great coordinated advising where we're outreaching to those students and making sure, hey, we know you're not part of New College anymore, but you started with us. We want to make sure your transition is going well. Have you been able to get connected to your new advisor? Do you know where they're located? Do you know what classes you need to enroll in? And if they're not sure, we'll work within our tools to connect that student with the appropriate advisor from that college to ensure they know what they need to do to be successful. And with that, we definitely have some time now for some questions.
I did see one question in the chat, and they were asking if New College has a similar recruitment dashboards. And absolutely, we do. We have data storytelling dashboards in many areas. We've got our retention, we've got enrollment tracking dashboard, we have recruitment dashboards, we've got some demographic dashboards that just break down the student demographics. We also have additional dashboards at the request of either New College administration or faculty. We've even got some CAD dashboards for research and development teams. Looks like, oh, got an accolade in here. New College is the best when connecting with other advising units and ensure the student is doing well. Much appreciated. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you. That makes our job easier all around. Um, so we definitely were able to highlight our retention dashboards today, but I use the recruitment dashboards that Jenna puts together just as much as our retention. And that tells us a different story of our incoming class and helps us prepare for what's to come with our retention goals. Are we seeing a larger population come in with lower CI scores? Are we seeing a larger population come in with higher financial needs? So that allows us to kind of prepare our retention plans using the data, the visual data story to then say, okay, here's some targeted outreach efforts that we're going to need to make between orientation to the 21st day and or from 21st day and beyond to ensure the student is getting what they need to be successful throughout their first year at ASU.
I think I see one of the members of the team of the college in the room that was one of the architects of the data swirl. So I want to thank him for that inspiration since I see him in the room.
And I think the data swirl is fantastic, not only from retention, but recruitment, like Jenna was saying. I look at that too and say, where are our students going? And as I work on recruitment, does that help me identify how I talk to students about our specific majors and what conversations we need to be having to help a student understand what a forensic science major is, what our core classes are that you're going to be taking within that major, or is there another major that's better fitting your needs and understanding that? So that way from day one, the student is getting to the right major, the right fit that they want from the start.
Well, we want to thank you all for attending our session, and definitely feel free to reach out to David or I if you have any other questions. Um, Looks like we'll get a few minutes back, unless anyone wants to stick around and we can hang out for a few minutes and answer some questions.